iSEE109 right now.
All right, Randy. So what I'm about to do, I'm recording right now, but I have
Okay.
to re-record the flight. Maybe Randy, you can just participate with me. If you're picturing it as I describe it, then that's cool
Okay.
too. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I can share the screen with you, but we're gonna do something here. Yeah, if you have any questions, if I'm explaining something, then go ahead and tell me.
Okay. Today I'm not muted, right? Oh, oops.
No, you're not muted. Okay, so now we're recording. Okay, Randy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show everyone Flight Radar 22. Okay?
Okay.
And what
Okay.
and what Flight Radar 20 it's called Flight Radar 24, excuse me. All right. What I'm going to show everyone right now is I'm showing everyone a map of the city of Nizwa. I'm looking over the city of Nizwa, okay?
Okay.
And okay, in the map you can see, I guess it's called Highway 15, and that's the highway I would drive to get from the capital city to the city of Nizwa. Okay?
Okay.
And in this shot right now, you can see Highway 15, and then you can see where I would exit Highway 15 and I would take the little road to get to my home. Okay?
Okay.
Now, my home, I'm going to zoom in to the area where my home was located. So, right now, you can see some lines that represent the streets. There are one, two, three, four, five, about five lines that represent the streets in my little neighborhood. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And there's, so now I'm zooming out and you can see Highway 15 again. You can see where I would exit. I would exit right here, and then I would take that little road to get home, to get over here, and then you can see, so basically the road in between Highway 15 and then this other road in the city. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to zoom in for everyone to see. There's a roundabout here. There's this roundabout, and near the roundabout is the sports complex right here. All right, and so basically you can drive from Highway 15, take the little road, you can pass my house or what was my house, and then you can arrive at the roundabout. And if you turn to the right, you can find the sports center or the sports complex. And if you take the roundabout and turn to the left, then you're going to find the school or the college where I was a teacher, a professor, right?
Okay.
All right. So the parking lot is right here. This is what I'm showing you. This is the entrance. Yada yada yada. Okay, right here, this roundabout. Now, this is the roundabout where I was driving one morning, the same morning that I learned about Nipsey's murder. I was out. It was
Oh.
my car, and there was a truck. There was one other car on the road, two cars on the road, and I was coming around that roundabout, and this other car, this one truck, cut me off right here at this roundabout.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay, and then that's when I noticed the license plate of that car was 1090.
Got it.
All right, so I have a picture. I'll show you guys the picture. You can see that picture. I'll post that one up. Now, what I want to say is it was a very short distance from my home to where that roundabout is located. My home being right about here to where that roundabout, it would only take about 5 minutes or maybe less than 5 minutes to drive that distance. It's a very short distance. By car, if you walked it, it would take 45 minutes to an hour. I did that before. It was hot. It's a terrible.
Yes.
It was a terrible experience. But driving, you can get there, 5 minutes, no problem. There's there's never any traffic. Okay. And on that particular day when it was in Los Angeles, it was March 31st, 2019. But this city, we were 11 hours ahead, so it was April 1st. The morning of April 1st, it was about 7:30, 7:40 in the morning when that truck cut me off, and I noticed the license plate 1090. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So as you're looking at this map, because this part of the country doesn't have a lot of air traffic, then you can't really find any airplanes flying overhead that are going any relatively near the city of Nizwa. Okay? However, all right, there is an airplane that I do see, okay, somewhat near the area. I mean, it's actually very far away, okay, because for what I saw on that day, 7 days after that car cut me off, like those lines were right over my head. I walked out of my home, I looked up in the sky, and there they were, right over me. Okay?
Which was unusual.
Absolutely. But what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at an airplane that is miles from, where I lived. Okay? But yes, there is an airplane that is flying overhead. Now let's do this. I'm going to click on that airplane and get some information about it. Beautiful. Okay? So, what this airplane tells me, or what this app tells me, is that this airplane is flying at about 25,000 feet in the sky. 25,000 feet. Now, the picture that I have of the lines that are in the sky, I would have to estimate, because they were so clear, I could see them so clearly, I would estimate that those lines were between like 7,000 and 10,000 feet in the sky. Because 25,000 feet is pretty high, and those lines look really close to the ground. All right, 25,000 is too high. But not only 25,000 feet, but there are other airplanes that flew over this area, but they only flew at like 30 some thousand feet. And this is one example. This airplane is at 25,000 feet. Okay.
That's
So,
high.
yeah, that's really high. And okay, that's only one airplane that I can pick out right now. There's only one airplane in that general vicinity. But again, this airplane is still miles away from where I lived and where I saw those lines. Okay? But this is just one airplane that can help me illustrate my point, that number one, not many airplanes flew overhead. If there were any airplanes that flew overhead, they flew at a very high altitude. They were not low to the ground. And those lines that I saw were low to the ground. Okay? But then again, I'm not a professional, so I don't know what altitude they were at. Those lines were at. But the picture, because you can look at that picture and you can, gauge for yourself, you can kind of see what I'm saying. See that those lines look like they were pretty low. Anyhow, okay.
How long did oh, are you still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording. You have a question? What's up? What's the question?
Yes. So how? I mean, how long did those lines appear to be in the sky? Like, how long did you see them? I'm
Okay.
just curious.
Okay. So, let's see. I walked out of my door and I looked up in the sky. Let's say it took me, no more than 10 minutes to get from my home to the school. So I noticed them when I walked out of my door. I drove to school and I said to myself, those lines are still in the sky. Let me photograph them. So I started photographing them after I got to school. So at least 8 minutes, at most 8 minutes after I noticed those lines, I started taking photos of them. So they were there for at least 8 minutes.
Oh, that's a long time. Okay.
Now, let's see. If those planes, if there aren't many planes flying overhead, then like it, why were those lines there? If airplanes don't fly overhead, then why did I see those lines that look like airplanes created those lines? Why did I see them if airplanes don't fly overhead? And if you look at that picture and you look at how those lines are made, it appears as if those lines were perpendicular, like perfectly, made. Like, do lines like that, perfectly perpendicular lines like that, do they occur in nature like that? Is it?
Unusual. Unusual.
Yeah, it's an unusual sight, and I'm like, I assume that the only way they could be made is if like two airplanes flew in that pattern, one north to south, one east to west, perpendicular, and they had to have flown, relatively near the time, very close to the time when I left home. They had to have just flown overhead, because usually whenever lines are made, they seem to like dissipate. They disappear pretty shortly
Right.
after they were made.
Right.
And so, all right, so I'm going to stop the recording for the screen recording. I think I made my point, or at least I think I've presented some information that's pretty.
I have one more question before you end it, or is it? Should I just let you go?
No, this is fine. This is fine.
Okay, so you were in Oman for a few, how many months?
I was there for about, I think, 6 or 7 months. So
Six or 7 months.
I think I arrived in late January and I was gone by late July.
Okay, and like you said, it was very unusual to see airplanes fly low, like around 10, you say 10 to 7 to 10 um, miles high. Did you say, was it, or the range was pretty larger?
Seven
You
to
said usually
10,000 feet.
10,000 feet, sorry. Oh,
No, no, no.
okay,
Okay, so I'm sending those. I did the screen recording and I'm sending them to myself right now. So that's, if you heard those beeps, that's what that was.
okay. So, so can I continue?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So you said you would usually see, like, if you did see a plane, which was rare, it it would be like higher, like you said 30,000 feet or like around that. Like,
Okay. So
hey,
if I saw an airplane flying overhead over that
right,
city of Nizwa, I would usually see the airplanes at night.
right,
And the
right,
reason they were at night is because they were visible. You could see the lights blinking from the airplanes.
right, which makes sense.
Okay, so you could see the airplane lights blinking, but you could also see that the airplanes were flying really high in the sky. They were like tiny dots in the sky,
Right,
but those lights were blinking, so you could tell that they weren't stars, right?
right. Because you're
Because
blinking and moving.
they're blinking and they're moving across the sky. So you're like, oh, that's an airplane. Okay,
Of course.
but because they were so small, I knew that they were really, really high in the sky, very far away.
Right,
All right, so that was the only time I could detect airplanes flying overhead. So that informs me. That says, one, if airplanes are flying over that particular city, that area, they're flying overhead very high in the sky.
right,
That's one thing that it tells me. And then number two, it tells me that if ever you detect an airplane, over the city, of course, it's going to be high in the sky. Excuse me. And I have to clear my throat. It's high in the sky. And then number two, it's going to be easily detected at night because you can see the lights. Because
Right.
during the day, it's not going to be as easy to spot it. You know, a clear sky and so high in the sky, it's going to be a tiny little thing you're going to look for.
Right.
I'm sure you can find it, but you're probably not going to find it as easily as at night. That's all I'm saying.
Night with the light. Right. I just wanted to make sure that I understand and everyone else understands. Just recapping.
Yep.
Okay.
And so again, anytime airplanes flew over that region, if they ever did, because it was very infrequent. Okay, we're not talking about Los Angeles. Los Angeles, you can see planes flying over daily. Okay,
Of course.
over that city, then yeah, at nighttime that would be visible, and they'd be at a high altitude. So if 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 I've established that airplanes only fly over at high altitudes, they're easily detected at night, and 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 there are very few airplanes, very few, like one airplane at a time, if you even see that airplane. If you assume those three things, then if you look at that picture and you see two lines, and those two lines, if you presume that an airplane created those two lines, then we're talking about something that is very extremely rare.
Right.
Because I've already established that, like, if any airplane flies overhead, it's going to be like one airplane at 30 some thousand feet, and you're going to
And at
see it
night,
at night. But this was during the
usually.
day, this was at a lower altitude, and these were two lines. So
Perpendicular to each other, or did they cross, or just different directions?
perpendicular. One was up and down, one was left to right, like north, south,
Right.
east, west, like the map, north, south, east,
Right.
west. Those
Got
lines.
it.
So unless the pilot was flying really low to the ground, trying to find an airport, and they were lost. They went in one direction and they turned around and went in a completely different direction, all within a 10-minute time span before I woke up and I saw those lines, and then the planes completely they weren't there by the time I saw those lines.
Wow, that's interesting.
So my question again is, how did those lines get there? Because if you see the lines in the sky, I guess it's easy to presume, hey, these lines were created by airplanes.
Right.
But if airplanes aren't flying overhead, then are you telling
What the
me
heck
that
was it?
what's that?
I said, what the heck was that? So are you
Exactly.
telling me what?
Exactly. Because is nature going to make perpendicular lines in the sky like that?
Probably not.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that's the crux of the problem. Like that's like what happened? What did I see? What was it? Work with me, folks. Show me, you know?
Mm.
So that's what it is. Okay. I'm going to end the recording. I think we've discussed this enough. So I'm going to end the recording now. I'm going to put the video together and yeah. Okay? So,
Okay.
any other questions, Randy, to help me like
Mm,
explain this? Did I explain it sufficiently?
yes. So I just wanted to make sure, again, I just wanted to make sure that I understood and that all of like your listeners were able to understand what was going on. So they should comment below and, give you some insight or just, give some idea to what they think, what was going on,
Right. Oh,
because I'm curious.
and to mine, and I also want to clearly state, um, I don't partake in drugs. I don't smoke marijuana. I'm not against it, but I'm all for smoking marijuana, but I wasn't smoking marijuana then, and I'm not smoking marijuana now. I don't take drugs, so I wasn't on any drugs. Um, I did have
Your mental,
access. Hmm?
your mental state was excellent.
Yeah,
You have access?
I had access to alcohol, but I'm not an alcoholic. I didn't, go to sleep, and have a hangover and then, no, none of, okay? So anybody who states anything about, oh, maybe you were imagining what you saw, well, I literally took photos of what I saw. I'm sharing that with you, and I want you to tell me, what did I see? Because I'm not imagining this stuff. I've got the pictures to show you what it is. So, and anybody who would suggest, oh, you were on drugs, your credibility is shot. Nah, bro. That's the farthest from the truth. That's not it at all. Okay. So, what else? Is there anything else that I can say to?
It's a sign.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna stop the recording. Randy, stay on the phone. We'll continue to talk, but I'm gonna stop the recording in 5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, and we're out.
Window seat surfing on the wing. As an adolescent, I dreamed of big things. Climb to the top of the mountain to see the scene. Petty wap don't want me to have anything. I'm the captain, no jet lag. Boeing jet swag. Floating to the sunset, keep the drinks coming back. She summoned me, gave me turbulence on the sink. Pretty flight attendant boarding pass.